Hey, what's up, YouTube? My name is Professor X, and welcome to The Link. Here on my channel, I like to focus on all of the important areas of our lives: our friendships, our relationship with God, and our God-given purpose, and to present Christ as the missing link to bring everything together. Alright, so we've come to the end of our series on singleness, and we are ending it off with a bang. Coming back onto the channel, you would have known him from my other series on toxic masculinity. The first one to come on, Pastor David Hines, is going to come and share his testimony and his experience in singleness leading into his marriage, and I hope that we can learn a lot from his story. I always value his perspective, and I know that he is going to tell the truth. He's going to say as it is, and I pray that you learn from his wisdom. So, without further ado, let's get right into the discussion. Alright guys, so back to join us again is Pastor David. Thank you so much for coming back on. So we have heard a lot from many different people of their journeys through singleness, and I also wanted Pastor David to give his perspective because I believe that he has quite a bit to say. So Pastor David, the first thing I want to get into is a bit of an overview of your story when it comes to singleness and the things that you would have gone through, the experiences you had leading up into marriage.
So you want me to start from teenage years? Years?
Let me start. Let me start from teenage years. You start from teenage years because that tends to be when it really starts to start chugging.
Okay. To be honest, in my early years as a young man, marriage was never on my agenda.
Right.
It wasn't something that I had to do in a hurry. I would even say that I could have lived my whole life without getting married and felt I would be happy. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I saw singleness as being quote unquote free. Being able to do whatever I want to,
right,
whenever I want to do it, without anyone dictating how I do it, when I do it, anything like that. I could come and go as I please. And for me, being a unsaved person, a person that didn't know Christ,
right,
that was the perfect life. Even when I gave my life to Christ in my early 20s up to my 30s, I was quite happy being single. No problem at all. It wasn't until I probably got into my 30s that I felt a desire to have that one person in my life that I can say is my wife, someone that I could confide in, someone that I could build a future with. It was when I was 30 that those thoughts started to flood my mind,
right,
and had me asking myself a lot of questions about what I did before my 30s. I remember coming to a place where I definitely said I want to be married.
right.
And I said, you know what? There are a lot of changes that I have to make now in order to be the man that can be a husband. And that process was extremely difficult because of how I lived my life before I was 30.
Right. So when we talk about that time of when you did whatever you wanted to, you were living, you said that you were living more so in the world back then.
Correct.
So kind of let us into that, because when we talk about singleness, most people don't see it as a good season, right? You know, when you look at society, it seems like having a girlfriend, having a man all the time is really what it should be like. So, but for you, it almost sounds like the opposite. So you talked about wanting to be free, wanting to be able to do your own thing. But what would you say? What pain did that cause? Did that do anything that was harmful? Did you find that you found yourself in situations you didn't want to be in? Because even though it's good to feel free in singleness, there's a difference between that and, I guess, being a bit wild, if you understand, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say? How was that like?
You see, one thing that I recognize most of the time while living in the moment, you don't really see or experience anything wrong with what you are doing. You just see the joy and the thrill and the excitement. It's only when you have the opportunity to come out of it and look at it from the outside, you recognize how much harm and danger you were putting yourself in.
Right.
Because one of the things that I practiced in that period of quote unquote singleness, sex was a big thing. Sex was a major thing for me. And even though there was a point that I had given my life to Christ, I still struggle with remaining sexually pure. I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me in my single life. I came to a place where I stopped partying, I stopped drinking, I stopped cursing, but the sexual part of my life continued. And I saw that when I stepped out of that lifestyle, I saw the sexual habits that I have created over the years being dangerous for me.
Right.
And one of the things that I said, I always used to say this to myself: if I cannot control my sexuality now that I am single, it's gonna destroy me when I get married.
You get married.
And that was something that I so wanted to do. I so wanted to be able to control this desire before I got married. And I went all out to conquer my sexuality. People all around you will be telling you this and they'll be telling you that, right? About you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta do this, you gotta make sure you put this in place. But sometimes I used to say, well, it's best for me to learn from my own experience. I don't want to hear nothing you gotta tell me.
Oh boy.
Let me learn for myself. Right? And I will always say, you don't understand, you're married, right? You don't understand the stress and the struggles that we single people gotta go through, especially this desire to have sex, but you don't have no wife there or nobody there. You don't understand, right? But what I recognize it when I stepped out of that lifestyle and looked at it from the outside, I recognize, sometimes it's good to stop and listen to those who took that journey. Right? There's nothing wrong with someone who took that journey and is now on another journey saying to you, David, you gotta check some of these things that you are doing, and you gotta turn around and make a U-turn or something like. There's nothing wrong stopping and taking the advice that they give you, though,
right? Because
they had journeyed through that season, and they had gained a lot of knowledge going through that season, right? And what they are sharing with you is some of the experiences that they had gained or they went through to help them come to the place that they are at now. It was rough after 30 when I made up in my mind that I need to make a serious change. It was extremely rough, and I learned a lot of things on my own instead of taking advice from other people. And because I chose that road to walk on, I think it took longer to get to the place that I wanted to be at.
Right. So, Pastor, it sounds like you had your own struggles during singleness. You would have been doing things that were fun, doing things that brought pleasure. But when you realized that you wanted to make a change, that you wanted to move towards something more permanent, that you realized that having a family, having a wife was important to you, you realized that there was almost weights behind you that you had to cast aside and to throw aside. So something I am interested in is, if to you singleness was about being free, so you're not necessarily tied to somebody else's problems, you don't necessarily deal with all of their issues, but still have these struggles with sexual purity and different things like that, what would that have looked like for you? Was it like a situation where you might go out with someone and then one thing leads to the next, and then it turns out like it fizzles out after that? Was it events like that, as opposed to having committed relationships that didn't work? Kind of help me understand what those experiences were like.
I remember being in relationships, and I know so. But my longest relationship was 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And to me, they were real relationships. For me, they were real relationships. But I remember meeting a young lady, and I can't remember how old I was. I think it was in my late mid-20s, and I met this young lady, and we decided that we were gonna work on a relationship.
Right.
It wasn't the young lady that I ended up marrying, right? But one of the things that about this particular young lady, because she was a Christian, she was really serious about her commitment to Christ and her journey towards becoming a wife and being pure and all that sort of thing. To a point, I remember I was by her an evening, and we were watching TV, and her sisters had all gone to bed or something. Well, the sisters had gone and left us, and we were in the living room by ourselves. And I try a thing.
Right.
I never saw a young lady respond in that manner to me yet. The woman in those days, milk used to come in a can about so tall, right? Instead of, the cartoons that was coming,
right?
They used to come in a metal can, and the woman went in the kitchen for the metal can and fling it at my head, took my car keys, and threw them outside in the road and tell me leave her house if I don't know how to behave. And that behavior to me opened my eyes, right, on how I should really treat women that I am calling my girlfriend. Right. I think that was the first experience that caused me to open my eyes. That made me say, you know what? I need to come to a place where not only do I respect myself as a person that have given their life to Christ, but I need to respect females that have given not only have given their life to Christ, but females on a whole. I need to come to respect their bodies, respect their wishes, respect their desires, and what they want to do with their lives and their bodies. It pushed me to really commit a lot more to God and His Word.
Right.
But it wasn't, Xavier, it was not an easy journey. It was extremely difficult. But the first step was making the commitment in my mind. Because one of the things that I know without a shadow of a doubt is that because the lifestyle that I had lived before I really committed to Christ, it had warped my mind, right? And I had developed a mindset on how I was supposed to behave as a young single man. Right? I had developed that mindset, and that mindset had to be broken. And the only way that a mindset like that could have been broken and help me live what you would say a successful single life, right, was by allowing the Word of God to break that mindset. Right. So it was like I know embarking on a new journey, and to me, although when I look at it now, I would have said my real single life was probably like 6-7 years the most, because there was something that, as I hear talking to you, there was something that I used to say all the time. As a teenager growing up, I used to say, when I get 18, I will be free. I will be free. I used to say, when I get 18, my mother cannot dictate when I come or when I go, because at 18, the government, the law of Barbados, will say to me and to anyone else that coming into my circle, I'm a man and I can make my decisions. Right? And I think that's where I got lost. And did what I thought was a good single lifestyle. But it's only till I got like probably 30 to 36, around in my 30s, mid 30s or somewhere around there, that I recognized that I wasted a lot of my younger years being single. I wasted them, and I made a lot of bad decisions. Right? And I regret. When I look back, I regret those years of being 20, 21, 22 coming up. I regret the things that I did and the decisions that I made. I said I could have made a lot more better decisions coming up, and I think that my life would have been a lot brighter if I had only knew what I knew when I was 30, 31, around that sort of age.
Right.
Being a single man. But everything happens for a reason. And although that I said I made some bad decisions, I gained a lot of knowledge that I think I could pass on to people.
Very true.
So
Very true.
in all loss or in all bad.
Of course not. One of the things I always tell God is that if I'm able to use my experiences to help somebody else, it was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah. So something that I realizing is that when you were in that state of singleness before, the Bible talks a lot about how there's a way that seems right to a man in his own eyes, but the end of it is death.
Correct.
So it sounds as if that is what your past experience was. So now my question is, what did God have to do to begin turning that around? What was the nitty-gritty of that process?
So when I had this awakening, right? And to me, it wasn't like what God had to do, because God did everything that He needed to do already, right? It was for me now to start trusting God and following the path that He had put me on. Right? And I can't find words to describe the battles that were going on in my mind.
Right.
I cannot find words to describe the battles that were going on in my mind. Although I had made a decision, because my mind was so corrupt, it was like every day there had to be a renewing of the mind.
Yeah.
Every morning I had to like, Lord, help me renew my mind. Help me become this new person. Cause that was the verse that I was dealing with, you know.
Right.
Where God said, you are now a new person, David. You are a new creature, right? I said, but Lord, if I am a new creature, why am I still practicing or longing to do these things that I was doing in my 20s?
Right.
Help me, Lord. Help me. Show me which road I have to take. Show me which turn I have to take to truly be. And the thing about it is that although now at this point in my life, I wanted to get married, I did not want to get married with these mindsets.
Right, because that would cause problems.
It would cause serious problems. And I said, it makes no sense that I'm going to tie myself to a female and mess her up.
Right.
Right? So that was something that I was dealing with in my singleness. Being as a single man, I did not want to mess up a female. Right? But because one of the things that I say to Christian young men, of all the things, I don't think we as young men need to really stress on our rush to get married. When we look into the church, and this is something that I recognize from being a pastor at Blue Prey. When I look into the church, right, you see three men and a million women.
That's right. All the time.
Three men.
All
So,
the time.
and like, we gotta hurry up now, the picking's small, right? We gotta hurry up. I always say, singleness is the opportunity to work on making your character the best it could be.
Right.
Because once you get married, right, so many things come onto your plate in marriage, right? It's gonna make it extremely difficult for you to become that person that you desire, that you know God wants you to be. It's gonna be hard because of all the other things that comes onto your plate. The children, the responsibility of taking care of home, the responsibility of leading the family, all those things come into play. And if you are not ready for it, right, you're gonna mess up the leadership of the home.
Right.
You're gonna mess up the children that you get. You're gonna cause that woman that is looking to you for leadership to be stressed out. Yeah. So many things are going to be turned upside down because you didn't use that period of being single to make yourself become the best person that you can be.
Right.
So I would probably encourage people to use that period of being single to add value to yourself, to build your character, to build your knowledge, and gain wisdom from sitting down reading the word. Those things helps you when you transition from single to married.
Right.
It helps. And I know it might sound real cliche. It might sound, oh yeah, I hear so many people say that.
Right.
But it's really, really true. It's really true, because even in my first few years of marriage, there were things that if I had only paid attention to, right, there were things that would have helped that first couple of years to
Right.
be a lot smoother.
Yeah.
Right? But because I dally squally and played the fool, the first couple of years were nice,
Right.
but they had some things that I could have avoided
Yeah.
if I had paid a lot more attention to the issues that I had when I was
When
single.
you're single. Yeah, that's definitely something that too many of us think, that relationships can fix our problems. That having someone in our life can all of a sudden complete us, fix the trauma of the past, give us different habits, show us our vision, all these things. But as you were saying there, even in marriage, which is the closest relationship you can have besides the one with God, there's still so many things that cannot be addressed because only God can fulfill those things. So could you speak a little bit more on that in particular?
Yeah, so watch this here. One of the things that I learned is that no man, right, or woman, no matter how close they might seem to you to be to God, they cannot fix you. Right? They don't have what it takes to fix you. Right? We need to come to a place where we recognize the only person that can fix us is God.
Right.
Only person that can fix us is God. And like I was saying on Sunday, we got tuned into the voice of God. I mean, God's voice is not necessarily like you here sitting down to me, sitting down talking to me, right? But we need to come to a place where we understand how God talks to us, because I believe that God talks to every person differently. Right? God might talk to me while I am praying. God might talk to you while you are while you are doing his devotion. God sometimes talk to you while worshiping. You know, God might talk to you while you are working and you're busy. You know, you just get these downloads, different places, different times, in different ways, right? But we gotta learn to know how the downloads come, and that when the downloads come, respond with obedience. Yeah, it's like your mother saying, Xavier, I want you to clean your room, and because you hate cleaning your room, you're gonna find all kind of things to do other than clean your room. But the thing is that once that word is spoken, you need to take action on that word. And once you take action on that word will bring you to a place where you become a better person. Yeah. Right? And even if you don't understand it, even that you don't like it, the important thing is to obey. Right? And it's like a relationship with parents and children. There were things that your parents would tell you, Xavier do, David do, Bob do, but you don't like it and you don't want to do it. But the thing is, if you can wrap your mind around doing it, most of those things, right, that your parents tell you to do, carry out the garbage, clean your room, fold your clothes, it build character and make you a better person. It's the same thing with God. Yeah. You might not like it, but it's building character. It's making you the best person that you can be. So obey the word. I can't stress. Obey the word. Yeah. It might be a struggle, obey the word. You might hate it, obey the word. You might not understand it, obey the word. Because when you come to full obedience of that particular word that God has spoken to you, it's gonna make any transition, even from singleness to marriage, whatever transition it is that you're going through, whatever journey that you're going on, is gonna prepare you for that journey. Yeah. So that is something that I learned really late. And when I talk to young people and I encourage young people, that's something that I encourage them not to wait too late to be obedient to the voice of God.
Yeah. If it's one thing that God has been showing me, is that we need to change our view on discipline from God. Because a lot of times we view it as something that's very unpleasant. You know, the word says that a lot of correction doesn't seem pleasant when it's given.
Yeah, he messed up my program.
Yeah, but when you obey it and you stick to it, over time it bears fruit. So something that I have been learning is when God gives discipline, it's a sign that He loves you.
Correct.
Because the word says, do not hate the chastisement of the Lord, because whoever He loves, He chastens, just like the Father that delights in His Son. Right? So I think for us young people, what we need to learn is that just because God gives us rules and regulations doesn't mean He's trying to hold us down. In a lot of ways, the parameters actually liberate us, because what I'm learning, because I also recently got into a relationship, what I'm learning is that the more I follow God's voice, the more I lean into Him, the more I follow parameters that He sets, the more peace I have.
So one of the things that I learned is that freedom is not necessarily what I thought it was, but freedom is really allowing God to direct the path that I go on. And when I first get that, right, that did not make no sense to me because of what I saw. Freedom for me was being able to do whatever I wanted to do. So if someone now comes and tell me, don't walk down that road, walk this road, that can't be freedom
at all.
That can't be freedom. But what I understood God was saying is that God was saying, David, you know what? I'm the person that created you. I sat down, and this is what He said. It sounds funny. I sat down and I made you in my lab. I stopped and I made you in my lab, right? And I said, well, this is what I created David to do. And David, in order for you to do what you were created to do, you gotta walk down that road. Not that one, that road. That road right there is gonna lead you onto the path and help you fulfill your purpose and reach your destinies and goals. And that is freedom. Freedom is being able to walk down the road that will help you be successful.
Yeah.
Right? And the only way to do that is by going back to the person that created you. A mechanic will sit down and build a car, right? The car cannot function unless it follows the manual that the creator, the mechanic or whoever built for the car. Right? You can never find a car saying, well, you know what? I am a car, but I'm gonna live life by the manual or the fridge.
Or shoot.
Can never experience the joy of being a car.
No.
Right? Because the joy of being a car is able to move from down Bax's Road and come all the way up 6 roads at 60, 70 miles an hour, you know, AC blowing, radio on, and that's the car life right there. But the car can never experience that if he go and pick up the manual of a fridge.
Yeah. So
I can never experience joy and freedom unless I pick up the manual for David. And the manual for David was written by God. So when God said, David, go down that road, God follow the manual, because that road is going to lead me to my happiness, my joy, my freedom, everything.
Yep, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty.
Correct.
So as we come to the end of our talk, what would your final words be to us young people?
Any young person that is desiring to, because everyone is not going to have a desire to get married, right? But if you have a desire to get married one day, my encouragement to you is to enjoy your singleness. And when I say enjoy your singleness, that I am not saying do as you please. I'm saying be wise enough to be obedient to the word of God. Be wise enough and bold enough to be obedient to the word of God. I think that's it right there. And if you could get those things accomplished in your single life, you're going to be a real man. Well, and a real woman.
Yes,
a good husband and an excellent wife. Mother and father.
All right. So guys, what we take away from this is following God's plan for us is what leads us to freedom. And I want to thank you so much, Pastor David, for coming on again and sharing your wisdom and your story. I definitely appreciate it. I think that a lot of people will be able to relate to it, be able to learn from it, and hope to have you on again.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, Xavier.
All right, no problem. Okay, guys, so this ends our talk, and I will transition to the outro. All right, guys, so you heard it. The story from Pastor David is that as free as conventional freedom might seem, being able to do whatever you might want to do, the truth is, as he found, that true freedom is leading a life that is led by the Spirit of God. As we obey the commands of our maker, of our manufacturer, work according to his manual, we live the life that we were called to live, which is a life filled with peace, joy, even in hard times. And in good times, we see purpose fulfilled. And so I hope that you gain a lot from our discussion and from this series. I hope that we have learned to look to God first, to show us our vision, to show us our destiny, so that we can follow his blueprint and allow him to bring that special someone into our lives and to add value to their vision as well. And so if this content has blessed you, I hope that you will leave a like and also consider subscribing down below. But until next time, I pray that you stay blessed and that you stay in his presence.